What's going on, guys? Talking about The Last Jedi today. It is 2018, so spoilers are pretty much fair game at this point. So if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to talk about it. So a lot of people are unhappy with Luke's portrayal, and I think that's one of the most basically divisive parts of episode 8. And I wanted to talk about a little bit. I even have to admit that I would not have done Luke the same way that he is, even though I am a fan of the movie. So I'm not trying to slam the movie, but I did want to talk about how I might have done Luke differently if it were up to me. And in the comments, of course, we can talk about different ways that we would have approached Luke. Particularly the issue with Luke being a hermit for no reason and not really getting as involved as I wanted to see him. I'm going to reference the movie Tron Legacy a little bit because that was actually one of my favorite movies in a lot of ways for the soundtrack, but I really liked the way Kevin Flynn was kind of portrayed in that, and I kind of expected to see a little bit more of Luke in that, and one of the reasons is that the reason for him being in isolation, and it was different. And see, so what I would have done differently is I would have had Luke had more of a reason to be in isolation. So when Rey finds him and they talk, he basically explains, no, I can't leave because maybe he's not strong enough to defeat Snoke, or the mere sight of him is going to enrage Ben Solo to the point where there would be no turning back. So he's staying out for his own good because he has to wait it out for, basically if there's going to be any chance to redeem his nephew. And so he's, where basically it's some type of noble reason that he's staying back, but he's, and so he's still willing to train Rey, and then once Rey, begins to make contact with Ben Solo, and she says there's still good in him, that gives Luke maybe the timing, okay, maybe it is time to come out. And also, I kind of wanted to see Luke be a total badass in this movie, and I realize that that's not necessarily the Jedi way. You don't have to just go in and destroy everything, but there are ways to be really strong and powerful and represent that without, just obliterating everything. And I think Ahsoka is a really good example of somebody who can be good and noble, but also incredibly impressive with their performance. And to a lesser extent, Mace Windu. But really, I wanted to see Luke show up unexpectedly. So like in episode 7, when the lightsaber is shaking in the ice and it's going to fly, a lot of us kind of thought, oh, that's going to be when Luke grabs the saber. And we kind of wanted something like that. Like he just kind of shows up and, and he's here to save the day. So here's what I would have liked to have seen. So, in addition to Luke telling Rey about, his reasons for being on the island are more noble, but then Rey still leaves, and he's basically, she leaves to go after him, maybe in the middle of the night, or with Luke saying, I can't, the time isn't right yet. He'll still, if he sees me, he'll still turn to the dark side. It'll infuriate him. So, on the Supremacy, we get to the scene where, Snoke is torturing Rey, and at a certain point, Kylo, when he admits that, Kylo Ren was nothing or whatever, he starts trash talking Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren finally decides he can't take it anymore, so he charges Snoke. Snoke throws him across the room like it's nothing, and hurts Kylo Ren. And so like at this point, Kylo Ren's like, all right, screw it. I'm done with this guy. I'm done with Snoke. And maybe even Snoke uses Kylo Ren's lightsaber to cut a hand off or something like that, possibly. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be that way, but that's kind of one of those things that we didn't get in this movie, is a hand getting cut off. But so Kylo Ren tries to intervene. Snoke throws him across the room. At that point, he goes back to Rey. All right, or Snoke goes back to Rey to try to finish her now, because she obviously got a brief reprieve from Snoke's torture during Kylo Ren's intervention. At that point, Luke shows up, like out of the shadows. He touches the ground, all the lights dim, and he has this grand entrance, and very similar to like Flynn from Tron Legacy when he shows up. Everybody notices it, and it's amazing. And of course, the music would be equally amazing for this scene to just really have it hit your soul. And even Snoke, who normally has this smug look on his face, would have a brief hint of uncertainty, like, this just got real. So Luke shows up, and he, don't forget, he had his X-Wing, so he has a way to get there, and he could use the Force to mask his approach, no problem. So Snoke's clearly concerned. Rey now falls to the ground. She's free. Kylo Ren or Ben Solo is like recovering, kind of shaken and confused in the corner. Luke pulls out his lightsaber, and the guards attack. The Praetorian Guard attack Luke. Luke takes care of them very, very easily, dispatches them quite quickly, and he eventually has this huge battle against Snoke, and it's going good for a while. Luke does some great stuff. It's kind of like when Yoda fought Dooku, and you had some Force and you had some saber stuff. Snoke is probably not going to use a saber, so I would imagine Luke would be using his saber to deflect some lightning, and then eventually they start doing Force stuff, throwing things at each other, shooting, Force pushes at each other. We probably even see something new, like maybe Snoke draws to shoot lightning at Luke, and Luke uses a Force push to push it just in a total different direction, rather than just collecting it in a ball like his hand. But we can see all kinds of stuff like that. But at a certain point, like, Snoke is probably more powerful than Luke because the dark side is more powerful, at least in the raw strength. So Luke is forced to withdraw, but he's able to stall. If Holdo still hits the ship or whatever with her ship, at a certain point, Luke finds, all right, I can distract him or stall him long enough to get Ben and Rey to safety. So Luke eventually gets on that escape pod with Ben and Rey, and he's taking them down to Crait, because this is at the same time that everything else in the movie is going on. The Resistance lands on Crait, and Luke gets there with them. Now, at this time, like, Ben Solo is totally, like, he's just falling apart. He's torn over his guilt, and he's confused. He doesn't know how to feel with Luke being there, but he can't turn back towards Snoke, because Snoke just basically almost tried to kill him. Rey is like so glad she's giving Luke a hug, and she's like, you came back, I knew you would. And he's like, the time was right, I couldn't let you guys, blah blah blah. He has something great to say. But then when they get on the surface of Crait, Leia is there because she was there, and of course all the Resistance raise their weapons at Kylo Ren, right? But Leia tells him, no, let him come to me. And he comes to her, and he drops to his knees, and he begs for her forgiveness. He puts his head in her lap, and he's crying. And cue your Oscar moment right here. This is the scene that you really want. It's him begging for his mother's forgiveness, which she does give, because she can sense the conflict within him. And the dude is like just a puddle. He's melting. So meanwhile, and then Luke has his, high fives with everybody, and they're all like, hey, but Luke is also spent a little bit, because he spent a lot of his power in that fight with Snoke. Meanwhile, the First Order does land, and they are, they're doing the same thing like we saw at the beginning of Crait, and the speeders are, doing all this stuff while Luke kind of recovers a little bit. And Rey is like getting him some water or whatever. They're kind of, he's gathering up his strength, what little he's got left. Same situation where they're about to converge on the base. Luke goes out front to face Snoke, and he tells Rey to stay here, but Rey obviously doesn't stay here, so she goes out and she watches this epic confrontation. Luke has it out with Snoke one more time, but this time Luke knows that he's going to, and he's stalling for them to be able to get out because they find the way out the back. So Rey watches. Luke gives her a look right before, like, Luke basically, he pulls an Obi-Wan and allows himself to be taken by Snoke, to be killed by Snoke. But he does it in a way that, like, there's some feedback, and it actually slows down and weakens Snoke in the process. And he gives Rey a look, like a wink or something. It's like, I'll still be with you. So now Luke is sacrificing himself to give them time to escape. And then Rey shouts out, no, and then, like, Snoke sees Rey, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get you too. So then he starts to shock her or whatever, and she's, maybe trying to deflect some of the lightning, but she can't, and she's just getting shocked. She wasn't good enough. She can't deflect lightning with a lightsaber yet. But at this point, while Ben Solo is, like, just crying or whatever, and like trying to come to terms with himself and trying to put himself back together, the sight of Rey getting shocked by Snoke sends him back to, it sends him back to the light, and all of a sudden you see that his red lightsaber deflect that lightning and spare her, and then, like, they join sabers, and they both deflect the lightning back at Snoke, and all of a sudden Snoke is now weakened enough from Luke's onslaught and from the joint effort of Ben and Rey that he's forced to withdraw. And then when he gets back on board his ship, he's like, open fire or whatever. By then, they have sped away, moved the rocks out of the way, and gotten on board the Millennium Falcon. The movie basically ends, but now you have Rey and Ben Solo together coming back to the light. We'll have to show probably Leia talking to Chewbacca before they get on the ship to explain to Chewie that this is Ben Solo, Kylo Ren's gone, Ben's back to the light, so don't kill him as soon as you see him, because don't forget, Chewie's awfully mad at this dude. But now you have Snoke as the villain who's wounded for episode 3, and weakened, and so maybe you'll have a chance that Rey and Ben could come back, and then Luke will guide them in the Force. And then you also have Luke kind of speak to them at the Force, like, get out of here, guys. Like, as soon as they force Snoke to retreat, Luke will say, like, go out the back way. And maybe Luke's Force Ghost is the thing that guides them out the back way because they were lost. Maybe you don't even need the Crystal Foxes for that. Maybe that's another part of Luke's sacrifice. So let me know what you think, guys. I am still running a giveaway right now for a $20 Cool Stuff gift card. Only thing you need to do to enter that is to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. But let me know what you think with the theory in the comment section below. Make sure you're subscribed and click the bell for alerts so you don't miss any more of my videos, especially when I announce winners. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And let me know if you think that this might have been a different way, or what would be your way of doing Luke differently in this movie. Again, I want to close with, I still enjoyed the movie. I understand that people are, have mixed emotions. If you didn't like it, that's fine. And if you did like it, that's fine too. I really had a good time with it. I would have done some things differently, but I'm not in charge, and so I have to take what's given, but it doesn't stop us from talking about it and sharing ideas, and that's, I think, what brings us together through Star Wars. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.